Okay, maybe my initial reaction to Titanfall 2's technical test was a bit harsh, yeah? I never got a chance to play pilot versus pilot mode, so maybe I should give it a second. Wait a minute. They have the spawns marked for everyone to see on the minimap? So this is like developer-sanctioned spawn trapping now? They're going to do it anyway, so f*** it, let's just set it up so that you can spawn camp every game. Hold up, what the fuck? The secondary pistol is more consistently damaging and accurate at longer ranges than both the SMG and AR? No. My initial reactions to Titanfall 2 were not nearly close enough to how freaking broken this game is. Having spent more time with it, and understanding the systems a bit better, and getting a much more up-close look at how awfully terrible the peer-to-peer connections are, I think I was pretty kind. But that's not what I want to do in this video. I don't want to make everyone think I'm a basement-dwelling neckbeard who only takes pleasure in hating things others might like, especially because I'm most upset that I don't like it. No, I'm here to defend my position with calm, concise, well-thought-out arguments, like an adult basement-dwelling neckbeard. I also want to look at some other positions on the argument and see if I still arrive at the same conclusion. First and foremost, an awesome subscriber pointed out my bias towards Titanfall 2. While I had thought about it during my last rant, I didn't realize how much I was looking through nostalgia goggles. I really liked Titanfall 1. That means pretty much everything I thought about Titanfall 2 was being compared to the original Titanfall. Is that okay? Am I allowed to judge a sequel based on its predecessor? I'm not being rhetorical, I'm asking. Should a new game, or movie, or book, or whatever, be judged against its source material? This is a whole argument in itself. One side would say, this game only exists because of the success of the original, therefore it should 100% be judged against it. If a new game shares a numbered title with an established IP, it's a given that a standard and precedent has been set and should be adhered to. However, the opposite side would say, despite sharing a name, time and logistics separates a game from the original, and therefore it's an entirely new entity that should only be judged against itself, or at most, if it continues on the spirit of the original. Both sides are technically correct, and in a way, it invalidates a majority of my criticisms with Titanfall 2. I said the game looks much more drab than Titanfall 1, I compared the spawn system to contemporary games which have much better spawn systems, I compared maps to original Titanfall maps, and lastly, I strongly criticized the handling of Titans in game modes according to Titanfall 1. I can see where someone who had never played the original Titanfall might not feel as strongly or as negatively as I did. There's a lot of credence to this currently going on in the subreddit. I feel vindicated in a way because despite as negative as I was towards Titanfall 2 a lot, I'm talking a little grip of people feel the same way I do. Many of them have even gone further in depth about the game feeling slower than the original, the map layouts being a wrong fit for the game, and tearing the new Titan mechanics completely apart. It's good when you find others that share your opinion, but does that make your opinion correct? While the number of people complaining about the new changes outnumbers the voices of those who say they are enjoying Titanfall 2, there are still many people who say they do enjoy it. Most of these people are ready to admit they haven't played the original, and perhaps that's where I've failed. It's almost impossible for me to differentiate Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2 in my mind. I simply can't play it without consciously comparing it to the original, just like I can't play it without comparing it to a history of first-person shooters I've played. Whether I like it or not, any first-person shooter I play is going to get judged against games I've played recently, and historically, both liked and disliked. Even more so, I'm judging it against previous games developed by Respawn veterans. To truly judge Titanfall 2 only against itself, I would have had to never play any first-person shooter before, ever. Since that's unlikely by the virtue of review, I think I can safely dislodge this argument. I can even strengthen my position by saying that if a game aspires to be released in a certain climate, it should be judged against a universal scale that takes any and all contemporaries into consideration. Long story short, if a game is being released into a genre pool, first-person sci-fi shooters in the case of Titanfall 2, it is naturally judged against the standards of that genre. In the same way you can judge I Am Setsuna against Chrono Trigger, Hawken against Chrome Hounds, you can judge Titanfall 2 against Battlefield 2142 or Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I'm saying if you're unfamiliar with the games I'm using to judge Titanfall 2 against, for example, if you've never played the original Titanfall, your opinion of the game is valid, but so is mine. In the same sentence, if you like Titanfall 2, I'm not going to try and dispute that. Personal feelings towards games are always subjective. Hell, one of my favorite games is the historically panned Unlimited saga, so if you like Titanfall 2, that's good. Don't attack me or another reviewer for our differences, have fun and support the games you love. But back to the topic at hand, there are other criticisms of my criticism. It's been brought up more than once that this is a beta, or technical alpha test, or whatever they're calling it, and it's not indicative of the final product. It's even been ousted by the devs that this particular build is 3 months old. This is certainly a point of my argument that's deserving of attack, but I'm going to go on the defensive and reuse a meme I used in my original video here. The point of this sarcastic comment is that when developers and publishers release games into the wild, they don't do it at the drop of a dime. Millions of dollars and years of work have gone into creating this experience in a certain way, and any state in which they are approaching the public with is going to be as physically polished as possible. To put it bluntly, when a company puts out a beta, it's about ready to go. Alphas are different, but similar. Major changes to a game's engine, mechanics, maps, and overall code are basically impossible to make at this late stage in the game. The only thing that betas actually change prior to release are generally bug fixes and stuff you would consider balance changes. Number values on spreadsheets of data, holes that can be patched without requiring the engine to be opened back up, which might create more problems. I'm talking surface issues here, not core gameplay. That's why I went hard on the beta. In my mind, even if this build is months old, it's extremely unlikely they're going to go so far as redesign entire maps, change movement-based physics, or scrap entire game modes. They might change damage values on weapons, just AI behavior, maybe touch up and tool around in optimization, but this is more or less what the game is going to look like at launch. There's simply no way Respawn or EA, or any other AAA company for that matter, are going to release a public beta build, regardless of how old it is, and then sell you something different at launch. That would be a PR nightmare. Too many people would be up in arms over expectations set up by the beta. Historically, I've never seen a beta to final game transformation go well. Almost every single time I've seen a beta make major changes based on player feedback, it's 100% of the time gone terribly, and I've seen it before several times. Best case scenario, if enough people cry out against a beta's lackluster performance, a developer will delay a game, taking the necessary time to make major changes and retest results before attempting to go to retail. Lately, we've been seeing this more and more on Steam, both in early access and fully released titles. A game will underperform at launch and 3 to 6 months later get a redux version that overhauls core mechanics in an attempt to fix negative user reviews. Hero Generations and Skyshine's Bidlam are two crowdfunded games that come directly to mind. No, to make major changes to a game takes unbelievable time and comes at an extreme financial cost. Like it or not, apart from slight cosmetic polishing, the Titanfall 2 we're seeing now is basically the one that's going to come in a $60 plastic box in a couple of weeks. I think this argument doesn't hold water, and it gives too much credence, blind faith in other words, to developers. Saying, I'm going to ignore any and all clear problems with the game now because I believe the game is in an incomplete state, and that it will be fully complete when it launches in an incredibly short time, is naive. On the same token, if you're going into a $60 purchase expecting the game to be different from the beta, you're not in the right place. You're putting too much hope into the hype, not the reality. I've said before that there's likely to be content in the finished game that might change my mind, I'm referring to the single player, but I can't simply hope the single player is going to blow my mind. At least not if I'm living on a budget. I suppose if my disposable income was such that I could afford 2 to 3 major retail releases, I wouldn't mind plunking down a few bills just to find out if it's good or not. But I'm not there, and I don't expect most people are either. Even if you did have that kind of pocket money, you probably don't have the time to play 2 or 3 different major AAA releases in a month. So, can I say my assessment of Titanfall 2's multiplayer beta was a reasonable argument, or was it just salty nonsense? You're at liberty to feel how you want, but the truth is you can't invalidate my position because I'm one who's had a history of first-person shooters, and this IP specifically. Also, I've refuted other arguments in this video, like it's just the beta or it's not Titanfall 1, it's Titanfall 2. But, at the same time, I understand my bias with other games can affect my review position, and it is a factor to take into consideration. I can also understand that if this is your first time playing a Titanfall game, that you could feel the complete opposite as I do. There are always 2 sides to every argument, even ones that are as fucking salty as mine typically are. I understand nobody in particular is attacking my argument, but the study of apologetics isn't about defending your position, it's about securing your motivations to argue. It's not a weapon built to attack anyone who disagrees with you, it's a pillar designed to support what you believe in against attack. Too long didn't read, this is all simply food for thought. Most importantly, I'm happy when people enjoy things they enjoy. I didn't enjoy Titanfall 2's beta test, but I don't think my opinion should be shared by everyone. People having fun playing games is a good thing that I, and One Soul University, stands behind, even if I don't enjoy the game myself. Bettering oneself and playing better games is the goal, even if you love something, or perhaps because you love something. We should be honest with its faults and always try to improve. To conclude, I'll be in my office if you have questions.